For centuries, the wild places of this world have called to the intrepid, the defiant, and the restless. They promise freedom, untamed beauty, and the ultimate test of human will against nature's raw power. But sometimes, the wilderness doesn't just test you, it claims you. It swallows you whole, leaving behind only whispers, theories, and the chilling absence of a story ever fully told. Today, we delve into the gripping, often tragic true tales of mountain men who ventured into the untamed heart of the American frontier in the 19th century and simply vanished. The allure and danger of the untamed frontier. Our journey begins in the early 19th century, a pivotal time when the American West was not merely a geographical region, but a vast, largely unmapped expanse, a land of profound mystery, wild legend, and untamed frontiers. This was an era of relentless exploration and expansion, driven by a spirit of adventure and the promise of untold riches. Beyond the burgeoning settlements and the last outposts of civilization lay an immense, inscrutable wilderness, a realm dominated by towering, snow-capped peaks, seemingly impenetrable forests, and roaring, unpredictable rivers. It was a landscape that beckoned with both the promise of unparalleled freedom and the chilling certainty of immense peril. These were the defining days of the mountain men. More than just fur trappers, these were the true pathfinders, explorers, guides, and hunters, solitary souls who lived by their keen wits, their trusty rifles, and an almost instinctual, profound understanding of the natural world. Many were societal outcasts, drawn by an irresistible longing for independence and a deep aversion to the increasing constraints of burgeoning towns and established conventions. They deliberately chose the profound silence of the mountains over the clamor of civilization, seeking the ultimate test of self-reliance against nature's raw power. Their lives were a relentless cycle of navigating treacherous terrain, enduring brutal winters that froze rivers solid and buried trails under impossible depths of snow, and facing down dangers that would make any modern adventurer blanch. They confronted savage grizzlies, navigated the complex politics of sometimes hostile Native American tribes, battled starvation, and grappled with the relentless, crushing indifference of nature itself. Their existence was a constant, grueling negotiation with the elements, a daily gamble against overwhelming odds where a single mistake could mean certain death. They mastered the art of living off the land, trading valuable furs for essential supplies at annual rendezvous, and, in doing so, forged new paths and opened up territories where none had existed before. They were the pioneers of the highest order, pushing the boundaries of human endurance. Yet, for all their hardened resilience and unparalleled wilderness skills, some encounters with the untamed frontier proved to be their last. For every legendary figure like Kit Carson or Jim Bridger who miraculously returned to tell their incredible tales of survival, countless others simply disappeared without a trace. Their stories were abruptly cut short, leaving behind only unanswered questions, haunting whispers on the wind, and enduring mysteries, their ultimate fate forever sealed by the vast, unforgiving expanses of the 19th century American West. Alfred Packer. A winter's horrifying toll. We start with a name that still sends shivers down the spines of those familiar with its dark legend. Alfred Packer. While not a traditional mountain man in the mold of a seasoned fur trapper, Packer's story is inextricably linked to the brutal, unforgiving nature of the Rockies in the winter of the 19th century, a stark reminder of how quickly the wild could turn from beautiful to brutal. His tale is less about vanishing into the wild himself, and more about the horrific consequences of being trapped by it, leading to the vanishing of others in the most gruesome circumstances. The year was 1874. Gold fever gripped the nation, drawing men with dreams of instant riches into the most remote corners of the frontier. Packer, a prospector by trade, and 5 other men, Israel Swan, Shannon Wilson Bell, James Humphrey, George Noon, also known as Frank Miller, and Joseph Stewart, set out from the Ute Reservation near what is now Montrose, Colorado, aiming for the gold fields of Breckenridge. It was late in the season, a perilous time to attempt such a journey through the high mountains. The wisdom of the experienced mountain men would have advised against it, but gold, and perhaps a naive sense of invincibility, propelled them forward. A brutal winter descended upon them with terrifying speed and ferocity, trapping them deep in the San Juan Mountains. Snow fell relentlessly, piling up to impossible depths, burying trails and making travel agonizingly slow, then impossible. Temperatures plummeted, the wind howled, and the world became a blinding, freezing white. Supplies dwindled quickly, hope faded with each passing frost-bitten day, and the group became hopelessly lost. The vast, silent wilderness, once a symbol of freedom, became a deadly, inescapable prison. Weeks later, a lone figure emerged from the snow-choked mountains. It was Alfred Packer. He looked surprisingly well-fed for someone who had allegedly endured such a prolonged and horrific ordeal, having survived a winter that claimed others. His initial story was vague, evasive, and changed frequently. He claimed his companions had simply perished, succumbing to the elements and starvation. But as details began to emerge from the frozen depths of the mountains, and from Packer's own increasingly contradictory narratives, a horrifying truth began to take shape. The following spring, a Ute chief, Ouray, alerted authorities to the discovery of dismembered human remains in the vicinity where Packer's party was last known to be. The scene was gruesome, confirming the worst suspicions. Gnawed bones, skeletal remains, and evidence of a desperate struggle for survival, or something far more sinister, lay scattered in the melting snow. Packer was eventually apprehended and, under duress, confessed to cannibalizing his companions. His defense shifted, initially claiming self-defense after one of the men went mad and attacked the others, then later stating that the men had died from exposure and starvation, and he had resorted to consuming their flesh out of sheer, desperate necessity to survive. Packer was tried, convicted of murder, and though the precise details of that horrific winter ordeal remain debated by historians and forensic experts to this day, his name became synonymous with the extreme lengths to which humans might be pushed in the face of absolute wilderness and starvation during the harsh realities of the 19th century frontier. While Packer himself didn't vanish permanently into the wild, he was captured, tried, and lived to an old age after serving a significant prison sentence. The men who accompanied him did. They were swallowed by the insatiable hunger of a brutal winter and perhaps human desperation. Their remains, eventually found, spoke to a disappearance so complete it revealed the darkest corners of human nature when confronted by the wild's indifference. Packer's story serves as a chilling testament, not only to the mountain's power to consume, but also to the desperate choices forced upon those trapped within their icy embrace in an era when survival was a daily gamble. John Colter, The Vanishing Act of Survival. Now, let's turn to a man whose vanishing acts were more fleeting, yet no less harrowing and certainly more heroic. John Colter was a true legend of the early American West. Born in Virginia, he joined the famed Lewis and Clark expedition in 1804, a journey that would forever change the map of North America. After the expedition's return, unlike most of his companions, Colter chose to remain in the wilderness, drawn by its untamed allure and the promise of rich fur trapping. He became one of the first mountain men to truly explore the Yellowstone region, encountering its geysers, hot springs, and mud pots long before anyone else, earning him the nickname Colter's Hell. His adventures are firmly rooted in the first decades of the 19th century, but it was his encounters with hostile Native American tribes that truly cemented his reputation for incredible survival and his uncanny ability to seemingly vanish and reappear. In 1808, while trapping beaver with a companion named John Potts on the Jefferson River, Colter and Potts were ambushed by a large band of Blackfoot warriors, a tribe known for their fierce resistance to encroaching white trappers. Potts was immediately killed and mutilated. Colter, known for his extraordinary speed and endurance, was captured. What followed became one of the most famous and harrowing tales of survival in the American frontier, known simply as Colter's Run. The Blackfoot warriors, perhaps as a macabre game or a test of their own skill, decided to give Colter a sporting chance. They stripped him naked, save for his moccasins, and gave him a head start, perhaps a few hundred yards, before turning loose their swift warriors in pursuit. With the Blackfoot warriors hot on his heels, a naked and terrified Colter ran for his life across miles of rough, thorny terrain. He dodged arrows, leaped over obstacles, and pushed his body to the absolute brink, his only thought survival. He outpaced his pursuers, an astonishing feat of athleticism and will. He eventually reached the Madison River, a desperate dash for the water. Without hesitation, he dove into the icy waters and swam a short distance before finding refuge beneath a large, tangled log jam. He surfaced just enough to breathe, using reeds for camouflage, remaining perfectly still as the warriors searched frantically along the riverbank, convinced he had drowned or simply vanished into the depths. After what must have seemed an eternity, the warriors, frustrated and believing their quarry had escaped them permanently, eventually gave up the chase and moved on. Colter eventually emerged from the river, naked, freezing, exhausted, and miles from any semblance of safety. His ordeal was far from over. Without food, water, or clothing, he then walked for 7 days entirely alone, traversing treacherous mountains and plains, back to Manuel Lisa's fort on the Yellowstone River, a journey of over 200 miles. He survived on what little he could find, and his sheer, unyielding will to live. Colter's incredible resilience saw him vanish from the sight of his pursuers, and then miraculously reappear from the very jaws of death. He was a man who understood the wilderness not just as a place to exploit, but as a brutal, unforgiving crucible that tested the absolute limits of human endurance and ingenuity. While he didn't permanently vanish, his story highlights the razor-thin line between survival and oblivion in the unforgiving wild of the 19th century. His legend grew precisely because he returned, a testament to an almost superhuman will. But for countless others, the vanishing was permanent, their fates sealed by circumstances less forgiving than Colter's incredible luck and skill in that perilous era. The unnamed and unremembered, countless disappearances. The stories of individual mountain men who disappeared without a trace are often lost to the mists of time, obscured by the vastness of the landscapes they inhabited and the lack of comprehensive records. The 19th century frontier was a place where records were scarce, and official investigations into disappearances were practically non-existent. These were men who, by their very nature, sought isolation. Their lives were solitary, their movements often secret, and their deaths, when they occurred, were frequently unwitnessed. Their personal histories, if they existed at all, were often contained within their own minds, never to be recorded. Consider the countless trappers who simply failed to return from their lonely winter routes, their traps lying empty, their furs uncollected. They might have succumbed to a sudden fatal fall in a remote canyon, been caught in an avalanche, or ambushed by hostile tribes or even desperate rival trappers. Their bodies, if found at all, might have been scavenged by animals or buried under layers of snow and earth, erasing any trace. This was the grim reality for many who ventured deep into the wilderness during the 1800s. Think of the prospectors who vanished while chasing the elusive gleam of gold in uncharted ravines, deep within mountains that held their treasures fiercely. They would leave their last known camp, heading off into an unmarked wilderness with little more than a pickaxe and a sack, never to be seen again. They could have encountered flash floods, rock falls, or simply become hopelessly lost in the labyrinthine terrain. Their dreams of fortune often ended in an unmarked grave, their ambitions swallowed by the earth. These disappearances were a common, if tragic, occurrence during the numerous gold rushes of the 19th century. And then there were the hermits, the ultimate recluses of the mountains, who built their crude cabins deep in the woods, miles from any settlement. They lived off the grid, choosing a life of utter solitude. One day, the smoke from their chimney would cease, their traps would go unset, and their gardens would lie untended. Years later, their only legacy might be a crumbling structure slowly reclaimed by the forest, a mute testament to a life lived and ended in isolation during that rugged century. Their names are largely forgotten, their fates unknown, their stories incomplete, swallowed by the very wilderness they embraced. These were men like the various companions of Pegleg Smith, a truly legendary and eccentric figure known for his wooden leg, his outlandish tales, and his improbable adventures, all occurring within the 19th century. While Smith himself did not vanish permanently, he was a survivor and a showman who often reappeared with wild stories. His life was a series of disappearances into and reappearances from the wilderness, each time bringing back tantalizing tales of hidden valleys, untouched riches, and lost mines. He spoke of a lost gold mine in the Sierra Nevada, providing vague directions that lured many. But the men who followed his elusive directions, driven by the same gold fever that claimed Packer's companions, often vanished for good, swallowed by the vast, complex, and unforgiving terrain of the Sierra Nevada. The mountains guarded their secrets fiercely, and their new inhabitants, the lost prospectors, became part of the landscape's silent, unwritten history. These disappearances, though lacking specific names in historical records, represent a vast, uncounted number of lives claimed by the frontier during that transformative century. The silent echoes of the 19th century mountains. The stories of mountain men who vanished in the wild of the 19th century serve as a powerful and enduring reminder of nature's profound indifference, its breathtaking majesty, and its terrifying capacity to simply erase. They are a testament to the courage, the ambition, and often the tragic folly of those who sought to conquer, exploit, or simply coexist with its untamed, unforgiving spirit in an era before modern communication or extensive rescue capabilities. Each disappearance from that time leaves behind not just a void in the lives of those left behind, but a lingering, haunting question that echoes through the valleys and across the windswept ridges. What happened? What were their final moments like? Did they find a brutal end, a moment of terror, or did they meet a quiet, solitary peace as they succumbed to the elements? We may never truly know. The mountains hold their secrets close, burying them under layers of snow, rock, ice, and the relentless, silent passage of time. They are the ultimate, unyielding guardians of these untold stories, their vastness a silent monument to the lost. So, the next time you gaze upon a towering peak, its summit shrouded in mist, or stand on the edge of a vast, ancient forest, remember the lost ones. Remember the mountain men of the 19th century who answered the call of the wild, who sought ultimate freedom and ultimate challenge, and who ultimately became one with the untamed, silent vastness. Their stories, though incomplete, echo through the valleys and across the windswept ridges, a haunting melody of human ambition, unwavering courage, and nature's enduring, unforgiving power. They stand as a timeless warning and a timeless tribute to those who dared to step into the abyss of the 1800s frontier and never returned.